Hey Kushi, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I appreciate your time. I know you're really busy, and I'm really excited for this conversation because it's going to cover one of the main categories, physical and mental health. And so, for those we've had a conversation a little bit before, got to know you a little bit, but for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you, Sammy, for having me. This is an incredible honor, and I'm so glad that I'm doing this. I'm from India, but I'm currently studying at NYU. So I'm in New York. I'm 20 years old. And a little bit about me would be that I've been identified as a competitive swimmer my majority of my life because I was a big chunk of like my day every single day for like 11 years. However, things changed when I came to America for college and stuff. And after freshman year, I decided to stop swimming and changed my line into more of like mental health and psychology and other things that I enjoyed. So it feels like a different chapter of my life altogether, but it's a lot of fun to reinvent yourself and see what all other possibilities life has to offer. And there are so many things that you can do with your time. So that's been amazing. And yeah, that was a little bit about me.
Nice. And you used the interesting term there. You said you were identified as a competitive swimmer. Why do
Mhm.
you say that? And somebody who's definitely had some success in swimming, but you don't really claim that you're a swimmer anymore. Why do you break that delineation, if you don't mind me asking?
So I guess growing up, both me and my sister went to the same school. So she would be identified as the swimmer's sister. And which is why I was always like, before I even said my name, I would be like, hi, I'm a swimmer. And then I would be like, I'm Khushi, which is why I say that like I was identified as that before anything else. But I feel like there are so many different things that you can be passionate about as an individual. And at some point, if you think that you've reached, like a certain limit of how much you want to dedicate time to a particular field, then you can choose to step out of it. And even at the cost of probably like, you know how you hear winners never quit, quitters never
Hmm.
win. I actually don't think so. I think if you think that you want to change your path and start from scratch in another field, I think that takes a lot of courage and strength. And yeah, like quitting does not have to be seen as a negative thing at all because it requires a lot of conviction to do it.
And you, like you talk about pursuing different passions. You went from swimming and you got into a little bit of modeling, and then now you're doing coaching around mental health and physical health, kind of about diet and nutrition. We'll definitely get into that a
Hmm.
little bit more. But how did you find that transition and going from three completely different quote unquote fields while still going
Yeah.
to college?
So actually, when I stopped swimming, it was a period in my life where I had so much extra time in my hands that I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? So every day was another day of just waking up without quote unquote a goal to follow or like a goal to pursue. So because of that, I think I gave myself a lot of just leeway of like trying different things out. And I'd always heard, because I'm a very tall girl from India,
Hmm.
like you don't see a lot of tall women because I'm just like 5'10". And every time I would go for a competition or something, I would always get, I think, backhanded compliments of, oh, why are you swimming? Like you should be a model. And I never thought about it too much while I was swimming because I was just like, no, this is the only thing I know and this is the only thing I want to do. But when I stopped, I was like, okay, maybe like it might be cool if I try it. And I did. And I realized, which I think we will get into, right? Like why I decided to even stop modeling was because within those 3 months, I think it took such a toll on my mental health. I don't want to blame anyone. I don't want to pinpoint on like anyone at all. But I think as an industry altogether, it affected me in a negative way. I think you can withstand it or you can choose not to be affected by it. For me, it wasn't like that. I succumbed to the demands of the industry, and um, as a result of which, also developed a lot of eating disorders as a way to cope up with the insecurities that were fueled in everyday conversations when I went into work. Yeah, which is why it's an amazing field, and it can make you extremely confident and
Right.
outspoken, and it does make you meet so many different people that it is definitely a lovely career option for whoever's aspiring to be a model. I don't want to taint the industry altogether, but it's so important to know that safeguarding yourself from just what all can go wrong, knowing
Hmm.
it is better to like have prevention rather than treatment. And that is where the brainchild of defeating disorders was born, because after putting myself through like mental physical turmoil for months and years of just being on a very restrictive diet and thinking that food was the enemy, or that like to be happy I needed to be very thin. I think over time I've realized that that's so far away from the truth, because I
Hmm.
am comparison to what I was like when I hit rock bottom of my eating disorder, when I was the skinniest I could ever be. I was actually miserable. Contrary
Yeah.
to popular belief, thinness does not equate happiness and health. I think I feel much healthier. I feel more like myself, and I feel like I have the energy to do things that I like to do, because I'm eating well, nourished, like nourishing my body and
Hmm.
fueling it with food. So food should obviously not be seen as the enemy. It shouldn't be seen as calories that you have to burn off and
Hmm.
stuff like that. Yeah, that is what defeating disorders is.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit more about that. So you obviously you
Mhm.
said you had a eating disorder, and a lot of people sometimes equate eating disorder to bulimia, where you eat a lot and you throw it up, or anorexia, where you don't eat at
Yeah.
all. There's a lot more that goes into what an eating disorder is. So talk to us a little bit about what the goal of defeating disorders is, and what's your mission to try to teach people.
Okay, I love this question because it affected me for such a long time, that because I kept invalidating my struggle. Why I say this is because often we see the portrayal of these eating disorders on like media
Mhm.
outlets and just movies, or like anything, even Google for that matter. Like when you look up anorexia, you see this very emaciated, skinny girl, very bony and absolutely starved. But what I have believed is like I was never that skinny.
Right.
And which is why I kept delaying treatment. I kept telling myself that I'm not sick enough and I don't qualify to get the treatment because I'm just not there yet, which in a way I was trying to convince myself that I had to reach that point, because anorexia or like any eating disorder, even though they manifest as food and body issues, I think not even it's a fact that they are actually psychological issues. It's the way you think. And the moment that your relationship with food is borderline getting worse than what you think is healthy, or healthy eating gone like obsessive, that is why you need to just check yourself so that it doesn't blow up to become a full eating disorder. Because for me it started from just calorie restriction here and there. Okay, let me like just opt for the low calorie thing, even if I don't like it, even if I don't want it, I will just be unsatisfied with what
Hmm.
I'm eating so that I have a low calorie option. But over time and over like this period of struggle and then recovery, I've realized that like our bodies are smarter than us. Like it doesn't, one food item will not change your body. So if,
Right.
or like even on an everyday basis, if I, and this is completely my opinion. So obviously everybody is different. Every way of reacting to food is different. So definitely just whatever you hear from me, just take it with a pinch of salt, because I'm not trying to guide you. I'm just telling you what works for me.
Hmm.
But mindful eating and intuitive eating really helped me, because I started listening to my hunger cues. I started listening to that inner voice that was telling me that today I want an avocado toast, or tomorrow I want Brussels sprouts, and the day after I'll probably just want a bagel with cream cheese or chocolate. And that means that I will listen to it, because if I don't listen to it, it's because diet culture is telling me that one particular food is really bad for me. But actually, like, food doesn't have a moral value. It's what society, or it's what like years of just growing up in in a community that promotes diet culture and everything
Hmm.
that's like wrong with it as something that should be followed. It's drilled into our heads, and that's why it's so hard to even identify it. So for example, like these days, if I wake up at 6 a.m. and you know how the entire world revolves around, okay, like 9 a.m. you eat breakfast, but
Sure.
breakfast in itself, like the word says, break fast, like you have to break your fast, right? That can be at 9 a.m., that can be at 11 a.m. if you get hungry then, or it can even be at 6 a.m. because I wake up then
Yeah.
and I'm hungry and I want to eat. So before, when I was like in my disorder phase, I would have to wait or starve myself until I reached hit that clock 9 a.m. to feed myself. But now
Interesting.
it's how I break out of these small rules that I in my head made for myself, is what recovery is to me. Like recovery is just taking it one day at a time and challenging every food rule that you've made have told yourself, so that you can have control over your life a little more.
Okay. So there's a lot there that I would like to dive into, and we're definitely going to talk about mindful and intuitive eating a little bit. I wanted to focus in on, you mentioned that you started to notice the change, right? And you wanted to draw that line. Which one is too much restrictive eating versus even, okay, I want a piece of chocolate today, but maybe you have that every day. And where's the line so that you do have a little bit of health and you don't overeat? How do
Yeah.
you, when you're in the moment, know that you're crossing that line, and how do you set that? Is it some people coming in and helping, telling you? Is it a close circle of friends? Is it just you train your mind to find that out? What is your
Hmm.
approach to understand the boundaries of eating?
So I think it's an everyday journey of realizing what food makes you feel good. There are some foods that make me feel super sluggish. Like
Mhm.
I want to eat them, but I know that after I eat them, I wouldn't feel as energetic or I wouldn't feel as enthusiastic or even happy for that matter. Like maybe for that short time, I'll just be like, yeah, I really want it. And then later I'll feel like unhealthy in
Mhm.
like my own way. But if I still want it, like knowing all this or what impact it will have on me, for example, cheese, like I might be a little lactose intolerant, I think, but I still love it so much that every now and then I treat myself to it because I know that okay, I wouldn't feel good from inside, like my body wouldn't react to it well. However, having a balance with it, like obviously I wouldn't eat it every day, and having a nutritious, choosing nutritious options is obviously the biggest key of like mindful eating. However, that's where you have to strike a balance between the mindful and the intuition part, where you listen to both. And you, because I have so much knowledge now, I think the biggest thing to whoever's listening, I think we're all surrounded with a lot of facts and figures, right? We all know that there are this amount of calories or what are the nutritional value of this product because everything's on the back of the label. So you're
Correct.
obviously not unaware. Now, how you choose to use this data is on up to you. You could be very obsessed with it. You could obviously be like, oh, like I wouldn't eat anything with these amount of carbs or like sugar. However, I don't feel like that. Like I wouldn't approach it like that because even though yeah, it might have 20 grams of sugar, half or like quarter of that chocolate will not do me any harm. It doesn't me it I'm not trying to be an Olympic swimmer anymore. So for me, I know that like a piece of chocolate is not going to hamper my health. And even my friends who are still on the path of, like they went to Tokyo 2020, they're Olympians. I've seen them eating everything flexibly. And I think that is so inspiring to me and to anyone that like you could have insane goals like that as well
Mhm.
and still have a very healthy and positive relationship with food where you don't demonize anything as extremely bad.
Yeah, I definitely think everything in moderation is the key, right? We were
Hmm.
talking a little bit earlier where I prefer more of a bulk and a cut, where I may eat a little bit restrictive now currently because I'm cutting and trying to lose a little weight, where some
Yeah.
people just like flexibility year round is best for them. So you team up with a lot of true psychologists, people who are eating experts, if you will, to kind of provide some insight and facts of how you can get over your disorder, and tell some of the things that you learned from your work with them, just to help that. I think the overall thing is, like you mentioned earlier on the anorexia, you didn't know that you were actually anorexic because the pictures that you saw on Google were an extremely emaciated
Yeah.
individual and you weren't there yet. You can understand, working with them, how to identify if somebody is on track for a disorder.
Yeah. So I think that's where I believe that defeating disorders is a great initiative. Why? Because in when I was going through my struggle, I didn't have professional help.
Mhm.
I thought help was something that you only have to seek when you're extremely you need to recover,
Right.
or you know that if you go beyond this, like you wouldn't be able to survive itself. But that's not how it should be. Help should be available, accessible, and affordable to everyone. And that's where I wanted to create a platform like Defeating Disorders, which is an Uber Eats for mental health, or like a Zomato for mental health, to whoever can relate to this. Basically, you log on to the website, you see the multiple options that you have in terms of psychologists, psychotherapists, nutritionists, dietitians, even life coaches. Like we have a big panel and a big team of these professionals who are there, who want to help and give back to community and at very affordable rates. So I think that for me would have been amazing as a resource when I was in the phase of it. But to all the girls and boys who think that you're borderline, like reaching a point where you want to seek help or you think there's something wrong, make use of these resources. They're there now. So you might as well. And I think anorexia, or you don't have to, the biggest thing is that I was checking a lot of, oh, what are the symptoms of anorexia? And a lot of it is just behavioral, but a lot of it is also psychological. I checked off all of the behavioral and all of the like physical. I wouldn't say I checked off all the physical requirements, but behavioral and psychological, I was there. And that's what a lot of people are going through as well. Also, because of how surrounded we are with unrealistic body types on social media and movies, I think we're always in a constant self-critical dialogue that I'm not good enough or I don't look like that. But
Right.
that's where you have to remind yourself that what on the internet may or may not be real, or it'll definitely be at least edited. I'll take charge of or own up to my own Instagram not always being completely unfiltered. I am trying to move towards that, where I post myself as natural as I possibly can be. However, it's so hard, and I wouldn't blame anyone, but like, we are portraying our highlights. However, on a daily basis, you don't look what other people look like on the internet. So there is that critical or the rumination that you're just not good enough and you have to be like that. And then you go into all these like different diets, from keto to paleo to intermittent fasting. There are so many hacks that people are promoting these days. And extreme calorie deficit diets like 1200 calories, which is so beyond what you should go down to. You should never do that much of restriction, because what a lot of people don't know is that is actually making you reach further away from your goals. If you're trying to lose weight, you could be eating 200 calories a day and you lose weight in 3 days. After 1 month, you will gain all of it back, and you will also have hampered your metabolism and your physical health, your mental health. Everything goes for a toss. People need to understand that like any change to want is not innately bad. Like you could be wanting, like you said, like you're trying to bulk up right now, or whatever your goal might be. Like it's not bad to work towards it. However, doing it in a very healthy, consistent, gradual manner is the key, because that will make you feel really good at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you mentioned was social media. Obviously, in today's world, in this podcast, we try to talk about how the impact of social media and technology can have an adverse effect. Like it could also bring a lot of positivity and connection. And for example, that's how we met, and that's how this conversation is happening, and trying to spread awareness and increase the hopefully helping other people achieve their goals. But at the same time, you're comparing to other people's highlights. And then already we used to have TV and magazines, but now it's all the time everywhere on your phone. And I think the other problem is that you don't know how long it was to work at it, right? So it's the instant gratification. And that's why people go on extreme fad diets and diet cultures. I was personally never a fan. I just do the same thing. I'm a consistent person. It's boring, it's routine, but that's what I'm used to. And that's my personality type. How do you understand your personality type and how that would quote unquote help you get the right diet or lifestyle of?
Honestly, because I'm not a medical professional, I wouldn't be able to guide someone with this. And that is why I created a platform where you have these resources which will guide you. You can trust them because they've done their research, they've done studying. I can only use my knowledge of maybe a lot of research papers on the internet, but that's not the extent you want from somebody telling you how to lead your life. So I think that's where, yes, I want to use social media very like judiciously, cautiously, and in a positive manner. I think it's a wonderful way to reach out to a lot of different people who might be relating to your struggle or to your story, or just be inspired by you. But that's where I also want to know, I also recognize that there is a responsibility that comes. Like everything that I put out, I really have to think about like whether it can be perceived in the wrong light or not. And if it can, then it doesn't make it to Instagram. So just being extremely sensitive also, because I'm trying to tackle issues about mental health or everyday, like what on social media may or may not be real, and you shouldn't let that get to you. It's something that obviously has to be said, but how you say it has to be thought of and has to be drafted multiple times before it's posted. So I think, it's like any other public platform. You wouldn't give a speech without actually thinking about what you're saying. So similarly that way. But I used to spend so much time on social media anyway. I thought it might as well be a good thing to use it productively as a platform to to generate awareness and help people out. Because ever since I've started posting about my own struggle, I think the amount and the ample of responses I've gotten positively, being inspired or seeking, trying to get advice or help, or just having a heart to heart conversation with people who've been through the exact same thing that I've been through. I think it's been so amazing because I know that I'm a people's person. I love talking. I love meeting new people. I love talking to new people. And that's what it gave to me. So I'm very happy that I was able to actualize something that enjoy so much in this form.
Yeah, and to your point there, like you mentioned, you sharing your struggles, how a lot of people have claimed they also have their same struggles that they're trying to learn from. But you look at the numbers, quote unquote, the data, the stats, and that's could be doctored because a lot of people don't know if they're truly going through this disorder. But global population, it's 7%, according to the research, that people, 7% of the world are identified as they've had a eating disorder. Number sounds small, but that's 600 million people, which is twice or three times the amount of people affected by COVID. So it's definitely a huge issue, yet not a lot of people are claiming they have it. But I feel like every person knows somebody at least, or they themselves have had a bout with eating disorders. So how do you kind of get people to be comfortable admitting and seeking out help as well?
Yeah. So I think that number might actually not be a very accurate representation of how many people are actually going through it, because resources are not accessible. You only make it to the statistics if you've been diagnosed with it. However, so many people aren't. I've talked to, if I give you like a estimate, if I've spoken to 100 people, I kid you not, at least 95 of them have said that they relate to what I'm saying, which is so far away from that 6 or 7% that you mentioned. It's a 95%, but obviously it might not be 95. It is definitely not 6 either.
Right.
I feel like it's a pandemic in itself altogether, and it needs to be addressed. And the sooner we do it and the more we get involvement from the entire community, it's not a girl's issue. It's not a teenage issue. It's not something that you only go through when you're trying to lose weight. I think there are so many eating disorders, in fact, and I want to get into that as well. How it's not just anorexia, it's not just bulimia, it's not just body dysmorphia. It's orthorexia, it's pica and afrid and rumination disorder, and so many things that people have no idea about. And I got to know about it in the past, like 1 year of educating about these things.
Yeah, so you just rattled off 3 or 4 things that I had never heard of until I spoke with you. So explain some of those other eating disorders, because like I said, it's not just anorexia and bulimia. There's a lot out there that people like me have never heard of.
Yeah, I was the same. Unless you actually go through it, I feel like it's not your fault that you don't know. But as a community, if we are aware about these things, just it can be a better place for everyone, because we'll be more accepting towards different struggles that people are going through. So the first one that I mentioned was which is avoidant and restrictive food intake disorder, which is basically characterized by a disturbance in eating or like feeding behaviors that results in a significant weight loss or like nutritional deficiency or difficulty in maintaining a normal day-to-day life. And it's often confused with anorexia due to weight loss associated with the illness and the pattern of restrictive eating. However, those suffering from this disorder do not share the same desire for thinness or like even body dysmorphia for that matter. They're not going through those thoughts. To note the difference, it's like someone with this disorder, afrid, may abstain from eating due to tastes and textures of food. So it's definitely only psychological in this case, because they feel like they're intolerable to those kinds of food and they won't be able to digest it. And then they, because of this thought process, that manifests as like gastrointestinal problems or some other health issue and stuff like that. And as a result of which, a lot of them develop allergies to these foods because they're not taking them in, so they're not developing an immunity against it. So it only gets worse over time, and knowing about this might actually help a lot of people. The second one that I mentioned was pica. This one is very interesting because you read about stuff, but you've never seen it. So you don't know, like you can't actually even visualize it.
Right.
But I was speaking about it to one of my friends earlier last month. And I was like, yeah, pica is another eating disorder, which involves you just like typically not eating food that has any nutritional value. This could be like soap or sweaters or like cloths, bricks and stuff. And he responded by saying that he had it. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's, yeah, I thought I was insane, but apparently, like, I check all the boxes, and we looked it up, and like all of the symptoms, all of the signs and symptoms that a person needs to have, like, he had it.
Wow.
And he had it and he wasn't aware about it. And the fact is that because it's in the DSM-5 criteria and it is a research eating disorder, it means that affects a lot of people, which is why it's, and the stigma and the taboo that eating disorders are associated with prevent people from talking about it. But that's why I believe that I have to be so vocal, even more than it's called for, because
Yeah.
it just has to be normalized. If now today I can have a conversation with absolutely anyone that I struggled with my mental health, or I have not had the best relationship with food over the years, I think it's amazing, because it was such a secret to me that it affected my mental health so much more. But now when I speak about it confidently, knowing that even if a person will not, I don't know, like, they'll just be empathetic and understanding, because even if they can't relate, they'll know that it's okay to be okay. And yeah, so that's why. And then the last one was rumination disorder. There are so many different ones. I recommend everyone to just go and read about these things, because it definitely helps. Yeah,
Uh,
for sure. Like, even just watching like TED Talks or
yeah.
interesting ways of getting to know. I think there are so many Netflix shows and courses which talk about eating disorders, and it's really cool to educate yourself this way.
Yeah, and towards the end, obviously, we'll talk about some of those TED Talks and things that they can go to find more information. I know DSM-5 is that database as well, though I'll have
Mm-hmm.
links in the show notes. But I want to go
Yeah.
back to something we talked about earlier, that mindful versus intuitive eating. And first, I guess the first thing is what is the difference between the two? And we'll go from there.
Yeah. So actually, a lot of people think, when I talk about it, when I was talking about intuitive eating first in my initial phase of recovering, everyone was like, oh, but if you listen to your body all the time, wouldn't you always be eating like burgers and
Hmm.
pizzas and fries and chocolates and all that? And I've, after listening to my body for so many months, I know that's not true. Because, yeah, there are some days where you do crave a burger, where you do want to eat a pizza, and you eat it as well. But the next day, or like that day itself, in the evening, I've had personal experience of wanting a very nutritious, healthy, like healthy seed bowl, or like avocados and stuff like that. So it's about moderation, and that is where mindful eating comes in, because I'm not unaware about the nutritional value of every food. I know from the back of my head that this is more in nutrition, this is less in nutrition. And that's where I know that, like, if there are days when I keep on craving chocolate, there needs to be a limit. That's where moderation comes in. You have to be okay with not always giving into what your body is saying as well. So striking a balance between that. Yes, no food is bad or good. However, even like eating a spinach salad all the time is bad for you.
Of
Anything in
course.
excess is bad for you. So even doing that with fries or pizza is bad for you. And that's where, that comes in. Like, that balance, moderation is where you have to just, know what to choose, when to choose.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because I guess I do that as well. I mostly eat clean, and then I have 2 to 3 cheat meals a week, and the things that I'm craving or things that I'm interested in. And I also couple that with restaurants I've never been to, because I want to try new things. So it's like I'm feeding that curiosity plus trying new things plus having a cheat meal, and comes together. But I guess I never really thought it would be mindful or intuitive. It's just kind of planning in my mind. But it's
Yeah.
interesting to know that listening to your body is actually a good thing.
It is definitely. And also trying to move away from the terms that we use on a daily basis. Stuff like cheat meal.
Mm.
It unknowingly drills into your head that it's something that you're cheating your diet, which means that it's negative, which means
Yeah,
that
that's a
it's
good point.
bad for you. But if you don't say that, or if you, it's so hard, because
Yeah.
we've grown up with these concepts, right? So even identifying that, oh wow, I didn't know about this, I should change the narrative altogether about how I view food. Even thinking, oh, I'll indulge into my cravings today. Indulgence is
Is a
not the
bad
word that you should
connotation.
use. Just be like, okay, I'll eat something different today. That's how it should be. Or even changing things, like I've said to myself in the past, okay, you will gain weight, but you'll be happy. Now I say, yes, I've gained weight and I am happy.
Mm.
That but is where it has a negative connotation, and that and is where it changes that the perspective altogether. Yeah, it's very interesting. And I think it's like a little game that I play with myself these days. Oh, how do I break out of this own like a net of things that I've grown up with? And like I
Yep.
have to just pull myself out of it one day at a time. And with no guidance, I'm trying to do this all by myself. I don't have somebody who's giving me instructions like this is how you have to pull yourself out of it. I think recovery, of course, can be made a lot faster if you have professional help.
Yeah.
However, if you don't truly want to get better, no amount of help is ever going to let get better.
Agreed. Agreed. And speaking of that, now that you're recovering and you're feeling a lot better, how has that kind of change, coupled with the fact that you're working in something you love doing in defeating disorders, how has that affected the other categories of success that's defined by this podcast, which is money, happiness, relationships, and obviously we talk about physical and mental health there as well, and career/purpose.
Yeah. So just to get your question again, do you want my opinion on how I view the rest of the things?
No, how you recovering from the physical health disorder, the eating disorder, and now working
Hmm.
in something that you're passionate about affected
Yeah.
the other three categories in money, happiness, and relationships.
Okay. I think all of it is like falls under the same umbrella because I feel like they're all aspects and elements of life that are integral into making your life something that you look forward to on a daily basis. I think when I started defeating disorders, I had no idea what implications it will have. Positive, of course. When I started it, I was just like, okay, maybe like even if I can impact one person with my story, like that's the aim.
Right.
I had no idea that it'll have this bigger reach. It's growing still. Of course, I'm not trying to say, oh, it's huge right now, but like every day, even the one or two messages that I get, I feel so good to wake up to them. Or even when I'm like sleeping at night, I feel like I've done something meaningful in my life. Because I said I'm a people's person before as well. I think just that personal connect with other people is what brings productivity to my life. And I feel like I'm working towards a bigger goal other than just like a something that I want to achieve for myself. Of course, money and being financially independent is very important to me, and those
Right.
things will never be sidelined, and those things will never like take a back seat. However, I do not want to see them as priority over the other things like relationships, family, friends, and just spending time with your loved ones is more important to me than anything else. And happiness are two things that go hand in hand.
Right.
As long as you have a good support structure that might look like a stable job, it might look like a very supportive family and friends and all that. So it's coupled together. I think I wouldn't have a proper definition to each one of them. I think all of
Mhm.
them just fall in line with each other.
Agreed. Agreed. So what's next for defeating disorders? Are you gonna? Let's
Yeah.
let you go from there.
So defeating disorders is definitely just like a community platform at the moment. We're trying to gain awareness through our website as well as our social media page, which is on Instagram. What we try to do is our website is solely informational blog posts as well as booking a session. So you can log on and you can take a survey. You will be emailed back from someone on the team who is part of the marketing and outreach. Somebody will reach out to you. They'll tell you, okay, if your survey has demonstrated that you in fact require help and you are borderline dealing with something which is has psychological implications and will impact your daily day-to-day life,
Mhm.
then we are more than happy to connect you to someone. And if you don't have the means of like even paying for it, defeating disorders will come in and like we have other events like fundraising and stuff where whatever funds we generate will be used to help someone get better.
Mhm.
Nobody should be denied of help if they need it.
Yep.
And I think if I was fortunate enough to have parents who were more than willing to support my therapy, but a lot of people aren't even able to have that conversation with their parents. And if they still want to get better, like why would I ever want to stop or stand in the way of that if I can be of help? So I think having a personal story to it makes it a lot more, I'm more passionate about it that way because I just feel like I want to help everyone, but I know I can't do that. I don't have the means to do that just by myself. And that's where my team comes in. The professionals come in who are more than willing to like give their time, energy, and attention to you.
That's awesome. And you could definitely see and hear the passion in your voice when you were talking about this. And that's, I think, what everybody should
Yeah.
shoot for, work in a career they love doing. So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit more about the social media, the website, and where everybody
Hmm.
can find you in your journey.
Yeah, so the Defeating Disorders page on Instagram is every day we post about different facts that you didn't know
Hmm.
about eating disorders. We also target a lot of like diet culture posts, like this is how it's depicted in the media, or like
Hmm.
how COVID has impacted people with eating disorders or people's choices with food. Even just we have this series which I find really cool. It's called Let's Talk About What We Don't Talk About, because there are so many things that people don't talk about, and there has so much stigma that we need to vocalize, and like we just need to say it out loud in order to normalize it. And that's what I hope to tackle from that series. We interview a lot of people who like we interviewed like a host of people, and even sharing their people who like reach out to us, I want to share my story and I use
Hmm.
your platform. We're more than willing to feature their voices and their faces, because I think that's the first step in recovery, where you identify that you have a problem and you
Yep.
come to terms with it, and then you begin your road to recovery. And I think it's so lovely to have an overwhelmingly positive response from people saying that, yeah, I want to be a part of this. And we have over 25 interns working with us right now. We had 25 interns before this. I think it's amazing that so many people are willing to give so much time to an initiative and voluntary initiative like this. And yeah, I think the social media is definitely the greatest way to reach out to so many people. I think one story reposting reaches to like 800 to 1,000 people, and then sometimes a lot more and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So it's definitely like incremental steps. We've
Right.
grown. We only started it, I think, the beginning of the summer, and now we're at the end of the summer, fall now. It's grown a lot, I would say. And it's lovely to see that there's a lot of receptive feedback, receptive response, and
Right.
positive feedback from people.
That's awesome. And I like to also ask everybody who guests on the show things that they drew inspiration from, whether that be TED Talks that you mentioned earlier, whether that be
Hmm.
other podcasts, whether it be books, something that helped you further your learning and your passion. It could be related to nutrition, it doesn't have to be, but give us some of the things that inspire you.
Some of the things that inspire me are obviously my parents. They, for without a doubt, like they've been the most supportive and the most inspiring people I've ever had the pleasure of being so connected to. I think because of the swimming phase of my life, where we
Hmm.
had a very regimental lifestyle, I think my dad was more committed to it than I was. He would be the one who like wakes me up. My mom would be up. She would be, poor thing, she would be cooking, and like my dad would be helping her, and like then he would drive me to the training center. And then so it was definitely like a family goal. Because of that, I think I've always been a very just productive person, or want to do things in a consistent manner, because it's taught to me like determination, hard work. I'm a firm believer of talent can take you a long way, but hard work can take you much longer. And you can't sustain being in a field only on the basis of your talent. If a person who's more hardworking and less talented will probably have a higher probability of succeeding in comparison to a person who's just talented. So I think just putting, like you said, putting in the work every single day, showing up, or not every single day, you should take days off and be okay with having a balance with your mental health, because obviously like it sometimes gets too much. Even this social media thing that I've started doing, sometimes I do feel like it's taking away from, I'm borderline reaching towards burning out. And that's where I have to
Hmm.
take a step back and be like, okay, I'll take 2 3 days off, no posting, completely radio silent, and just get the energy back, and then
Yeah.
again be passionate about it and want to, so that I can put out stuff that I want to put out and do my best at it. And when I see that it's taking away from my 100%, then I have to go like take a break. So yeah, that's, I think I forgot to mention where we have an Instagram, defeating dot so diff.eating disorders.
Okay.
And then my own personal one is She Talks and Eats, because I love to talk and I love to eat. Yeah, so I think that's where you can find me. Yeah, any other questions? I'm loving this conversation, so I'm happy to go on.
Yeah, and I love this conversation as well. And I really appreciate your time. I know you're really busy, but like you said, the quote that I love the most, probably my favorite quote ever, is Tim Notkey: hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. And you pretty much said
Hmm.
something exactly like that,
Yeah.
which is really cool, because I truly believe that. I think you don't have to be extremely talented in anything, but if you work harder than every single person around you, then success or whatever goals you want to achieve becomes inevitable. And
Yeah,
it's just a matter
I
of
love that as
time.
well. I hadn't heard of it, but of course, I've heard this topic a lot before, so it was
Yeah.
definitely not something that I've come up with by myself. However, my favorite quote is a smooth sea never made a skillful sailor. What this basically means is that you're bound to have struggles, you're bound to have a tempestuous journey,
Yeah.
and there will be hurdles, there'll be struggles, there will be times that you'll be questioning yourself and failing as well. But I think you have to keep on going. Yeah, like I think that's where you just have to take it as life is short, but at the same time it's very long as well. Every day you can choose to live your best life and get better at what you're doing in your craft and just give your 100%, you
Yep.
know.
100% agreed. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm just trying to get started, let's say, and you need one tip, one actionable tip to take from this podcast before they go on to the next one, before they get out of their car and do their errands or whatever they're doing. What would you recommend somebody who's just getting started in order to right their life in terms of their eating?
In terms of the eating, I think first of all, the bottom line or the biggest ground rule for me is you have to be kind to yourself and kind to your body. I think body positivity starts with first body acceptance. Start engaging in motivating yourself, even if that might look like change, does not mean like what you are today is bad or has to be seen in a negative light. I think you have to truly love yourself. I think self love goes beyond face masks and candles. I think it's sitting with yourself, journaling your emotions, being vocal about what you're going through, talking to people that you genuinely love, quality over quantity, just having those few relationships in your life that you can count on. 3 a.m. in the night when you're going through a moral dilemma, like they'll be there for you. I think that's been my revelation in life. I think very early on, I realized that, like, also, if you have to make it to the top, it's going to get lonely up there. So you have
Mhm.
to know that you have to choose yourself over other things, like
Yep.
prioritize what works for you and what you envision your life to become. I think that's my tip to anyone. And in terms of food, what kindness will do to you is, like, of course, being more in touch with your body and how you react to different types of food, and then doing your research, educating yourself very well, and using that knowledge in a very safe manner. Don't let it be an obsessive thing. Don't let it get to you that, like, it controls your life rather than you controlling it. Yeah, I think that's where food should be seen as something, as a source of joy, as a way of making memories, and as a way of connecting to different people. It shouldn't be seen as something that you have to eat just because you want to look a certain way. I think we're more than our bodies and what we look like physically. We're human beings, and just being amazing good human beings is more important than any other. So yeah, that's my key takeaway.
Yeah, that's an awesome message. And I think that's probably the best way I can ever envision this episode ending. So again, I
Mhm.
really appreciate your time, Kushi. This was an awesome conversation.
Yeah.
And I hope we continue to track your journey and we have you back on soon.
Likewise, it was a wonderful time speaking to you. And I hope that this grows, your podcast grows, because I think you're having wonderful questions and you're putting a lot of good thoughts out there for food for thought.
Mhm.
And I would love to see this pick up as well. Lovely
Appreciate
speaking
it.
to you. Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
No worries. Thank you so much for the kind words.